Greetings, everyone. Um, I hope everyone have been great throughout the week. Well, today's production is going to be a quick review on how the previous week developed. I posted an outlook on my Telegram channel where I discussed the important levels I will be paying attention to. I did reference an old weekly open gap, and I highlighted that I want to see that level serve as a control for the entire weekly delivery. And this is the actual old weekly open gap I did highlight in my outlook. Well, so if you look at how everything played out, we can see that this candle, that is the Monday's trading range, it opened and expanded higher into the low end of that inversion fair value gap right here. So I didn't highlight this bearish fair value gap because my interest was much more in that BC, which served as an inversion fair value gap. And actually, I was paying more attention on how price will behave around this old weekly open gap. When we can see it expanded a little bit over the high end of that and then tapped into that inversion fair value gap, and then from there we saw a very major drop. On Wednesday it retraced. Thursday it did open, expanded higher into the weekly open gap, and I did also mention whilst all this expansion higher was happening, I did mention that I wasn't still interested in the bullish pricing, and I am still interested in lower pricing, and we saw that happening. Friday we opened, traded a little lower, and then expanded higher into the weekly range relative to this high and then this low. So if we drop down into the hourly time frame, which is actually where I build my whole analysis on, all right. So I basically use the daily time frame for the volume, where is price likely to expand or draw to, and then I use the hourly time frame to define my market structures, everything that has to do with market structure. So if you drop down to the hourly time frame, all right, so this candle that highlights the weekly open on Sunday. And actually, I don't pay attention to the Sunday opening and um, all the entire Asian sessions. I don't pay attention to. I only focus on the New York session, which begins at 9:30 a.m. New York time. And so I ignored all this. And so this candle right there, that is the 12 o'clock midnight time, New York time, right? And so in my analysis, I did mention that um, I want to see price. If you are going to be bullish, then I want to see price trade above this old weekly open gap, all right, and then refers back to it as a retracement, and then use that as a ladder step to expand higher into the previous week's high and then further higher. However, if we are to see something like this, where price um, displaces below the weekly open gap and refers back to it as a retracement, then I will be looking for bearish pricing, um, targeting this lows. And actually, there was a present bullish SMT here with the S&P 500 market. And then if we are to be bearish, then I want to see that bullish SMT being violated and then trading further lower into the October's low. I did mention all that in the weekly outlook I presented in my Telegram channel. So if you want to view my weekly outlook, you can subscribe to my Telegram channel, which I put the link in the description. So on Monday, during the London session, we saw that expansion higher, a little higher above the high end of that old weekly open gap, and then into the low end of that daily BC, which served as an inversion fair value gap. All right, we tapped the low end of it, and then we displaced below that weekly open gap. And then after the displacement, we saw that retracement. All right. So if this candle right there, that's the 930 open is within that candle. All right. So we open 930 inside that candle and then reprice higher into this tiny, well, if I zoom in, that is a very significant bearish fair value gap. All right, we retraced into it and then dropped. The drop was very significant um, into this bullish fair value gap, and then eventually closed for the day. And that was the deal with Monday. On Tuesday, if I move this and set it on the Tuesday midnight open. All right. So this candle that begins the Tuesday midnight New York time. So during the landing session, we saw this retracement into that expansion lower, and then at the New York session open, we open actually this is the 1 hour candle, so you are not actually going to see the exact open of the New York session here, but we did open within this candle and then expanded higher, and then you see we did not, after price completely rebalance this fair value gap. Let me highlight that. Well, right. So that is a 1 hour CB. All right. So price completely rebalanced that during the landing session and then started to decline lower. At the 930 open, we opened and then we traced into that CB level. Whereas we failed to break that high. All right. So if you have watched my previous weekly review, I did mention of this high being an intermediate term high, and that is well, actually, intermediate term highs have two meanings, and one of them is a high that has rebalanced a fair value gap. All right. So this high right there, that rebalanced the fair value gap, which is this fair value gap, this bearish fair value gap, or CB. And so once we see that, if we are bearish, we do not want to see that high. We don't want to see this high being traded through. All right. We don't want to see that happen. So 9:30, we open within that candle and traded into that fair value gap level. However, we did not violate above that high. And then we saw this interesting drop. And we did retraced within the day into that level again, and then we saw this whole price action. So now this price action will lead us into Wednesday. All right. So that candle again um, is set on the Wednesday New York midnight level. And so this candle right there, that is the this is the 1 hour candle, 9 o'clock 1 hour candle, and within that candle is where the 9:30 a.m. open commenced. And prior to this candle, the closure of this candle, I was actually looking at this level right here. Well, I was actually looking at that price pattern, and that is a very interesting price pattern because that is a bullish breaker, right? And when you see a bullish breaker forms on the 1 hour time frame, that is a bingo move, right? Because it is going to react rapidly to it. And I wasn't interested in bullish pricing. So I did mention in my Telegram channel that I want to see that bullish breaker fail, or I want to see that offer a short term higher repricing before the drop. And I actually anticipated to short at a premium if that happens. And that was actually what happened. We priced higher and offered premium price, and I shorted within this candle. I shorted somewhere here. And if you are to visit my Telegram channel, I did post the um, execution there. And then we dropped. That was about 450 points. That was pretty significant, right? Right. So from that high to that low is 480 points. That is pretty significant. I did caught about 450 points of that move, and I closed the trade. And we can see that it did not even trade further lower. And that was my deal for the day. I wasn't interested in all this bullish run. Now, on Thursday, I was still interested in bearish pricing because the weekly framework was all indicating for bearish repricing, so I wasn't interested in bullishness at all. And see something, we came back to the consequent encroachment of that old weekly open gap, which I already said will serve as a control of the entire weekly delivery. We came to the consequent encroachment of that. The wicks did expand beyond that consequent encroachment, but if you pay attention to the bodies respected that consequent encroachment. Well, the consequent encroachment is just a midpoint of an imbalance, all right? A fair value gap or an imbalance. The midpoint of that is called the consequent encroachment. Well, in ICT terminologies. That is what it's called. And then we dropped. So I think I wasn't around when this whole drop happened. Yeah, I wasn't around. I thought I was going to be very active in my Telegram channel this week, but I wasn't around, and I also got serious malaria, which I am dealing with. So if my voice sounds some way, then that is because of that malaria, because I'm actually feeling the pains in my body. And Friday, I didn't pay. I wasn't around on Friday too. I had to work, help with some foundation work, so I wasn't present. And then, um, well, this drop led to the previous month's low, that is the October's low. And so, even if I was around, I wouldn't be interested because my target had been met. All right, and yeah, that was pretty much for the entire week. I did outline this and everything played to perfection. So if you want to see my outlines, then you have to join my Telegram channel. I do that for free, and so you can benefit from that too. And if you want to see the upcoming week's outline, then I'm going to post that also in the channel. So if you're interested, then don't be lazy to subscribe. Well, I wanted to keep this quick because I wasn't feeling. I actually wanted to go into the lower time frames this week, but I am actually feeling very, very weak. And so that will be it. That will be it. I do hope you had some insights. Well, one thing I'll also want to leave here is that I don't know if you've heard, if you've noticed this happen, but the atmosphere of the world has changed and it has become very tender. All right. Our Lord Jesus Christ is going to return very soon. I have seen, I have heard many people um, talking about their visions. Some of them are not even Christians, but they just see the visions and they see it very clearly. And interestingly, I have seen some. All right. So you have to be really, really conscious of your soul's salvation. If you haven't accepted Jesus Christ, you have no excuse. All right. You have no excuse. You have to start and accept Him right now and then start living His ways. There's nothing difficult with living a godly life. These are all like normal, sweet life. Don't fall into the trap because when that time comes, you might think that even when you take the mark of the beast, um, you are going to be free. No, nothing will change. You are still going to suffer. If you are broke, you are still going to be broke. All right. So it is better you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and your soul's Savior. Let Him be your salvation and start walking His ways right now before it happens. When I had that dream, I cried the whole night because it was scary, all right? It was scary. It was scary. It was scary. Give your life to Christ right now and you will be blessed. Well, until next time, stay safe.